Hello out there. Welcome to Implausible Nature, home to all things Black Templar. So today is going to be kind of an impromptu uh, list review from the Sword Brethren. You've seen multiple of these previously. Unfortunately, I had to delay this stream a little bit due to family death, unfortunately. So today I got back in town and we're going to rock this out for you guys. We're going to be doing two of these technically in this month because this is officially the December one. So we'll do another one on these ones. We have 7 lists today, and we're going to go a decently brisk pace on these, but definitely make sure that you ask any questions as you have on any of those, and we can go from there on that. So I am prepared for the first couple lists on these. Unfortunately, I got back into town today, so I didn't get a chance to do analysis on all of them right away. So the last 4 lists, I'll be doing them with you guys on the stream. So, good evening, everybody. How's it going? All right, so we are going to start with the first list. You can see them listed on the description there. So you can take a look at it. I'm not going to list what's in the list. Normally I go through what's in them. I won't mention that, the units themselves, unless there's something specific about the list that I would recommend changing or is important about the list itself. So definitely take the look at that. Hello. How's it going? Definitely ask questions as it goes along. In between lists, I'll answer questions, or even during the list. So definitely feel free to add them in. Glad to have you with us. So let's get started. Ooh, it's Hong Kong too. Don't see too many people from China or Asia even. Glad to have you with us. Okay, so list number 1. So I kind of wanted to use this one kind of as a benchmark. So I won't name, obviously, the lists who they are, but you know who you are. But this is actually what I would consider is one of our prime competitive lists and what I typically build towards. There are some changes to it that I would personally make as far as my list building on it, but this list is very competitive. It's utilizing what we do best in the codex, in my opinion. Now, there's other ways to build lists that also do really well. Kevin Roach's a list that makes use of a lot of infantry. This one goes a little bit different route with that. It's more MSU and utilizes that 3 Redemptor setup, but uses some of those smaller units to be able to go and take care of things across the board, with the exception of our Vanguard veterans. So there's a great set of HQs that synergize with that list. You've got Helbrecht there, and you've got your T-Bones chaplain. So that's great right there. You got 12 units. One of them is going to be objective secured, and the one that you do have that's objective secured is a troops unit. The infiltrators may be able to push back and screen as necessary, whether it be your back line in your unit or do some advanced deploy to get some early objectives, which I know you have used in the past. You do have those 2 dedicated close combat units. One is a great source of infantry shredding and mortal wounds. I can't tout that highly enough. They are going to be great against Custodes. They're going to be great against that Crusher build with the Tyranids. They hit well above their weight limit, so that's a great unit there. And then you have your Blade Guard veterans at 5-man. You also use the Sword Judgment with them, so getting some higher damage on that. So it's a great pick on there to be able to kind of fit against that -1 damage meta. And then you have the Apothecary there, obviously, for bringing back the icon there. Shenanigans on that. So one main comment that I do have with the list, and it's similar in my tournament list, is that the main source of damage, the higher damage, is from Redemptors and ranged Milta. So with the -1 meta kind of becoming more and more common now with the different codices that are coming out in Eldar, you're going to see the Wraith builds coming out, I suspect, with their -1 damages as well. That could be something of a concern to having that primarily from the Redemptors and the Melta, rather than having something on close combat. But again, my list has a similar issue with that, so it's something just to be kind of mindful of. And I know that you do, and you play that to your strengths. I also really like the synergy between Hellbrecht and the Eradicators. That's really kind of a nice setup there to be able to get those rerolls and movement, so that they are able to shoot at as best efficiency as they can on that. And really, you're going to be holding center and flanks and denying the access to the side of your board, playing it. Olson, Stranglehold are great choices there. And I know you've done some. We've had some doing a little bit of everything above average and being durable while doing it. So you'll see the common thread on this list is still taking those storm shields. And I think that's going to be something that's still going to be important going forward in the list, even with Uphold. You want to make sure that you're getting those 2+ saves, a little bit extra durability, because we're going to have a lot of high-powered shots coming our way. And the 5+ durability increase with Uphold is going to be great for basic infantry. But we also have the transhuman that's going to be really important to add on to those storm shields. So great list. Yes, the cold Midwest. It's kind of funny. I'm in North Dakota, and it's pretty mild right now at -2 degrees. When I was driving up here, it was like -25. So it's actually, the sun went down and it got warmer. That's kind of ironic. All right, so list number 2. So we have another solid list here. I do have a comment on our chaplain there. So switch litanies to fires of devotion or psalm of remorseful persecution there. So you want to make sure that you're buffing other things. That's going to be kind of key. I know the temptation is there to make a chaplain that is kind of a slaplin, but unless you're running another one in the list, that's really kind of something that I would try to avoid if possible. And I know you do have Litany Divine Protection to be able to do that buffing out there, but get some offensive buffs. We have 2 great ones. You don't want to waste it if you're running a chaplain. So make sure you get on that, change it out instead of the Oath of Glory that you currently have on that. I think that'll be a great buff to the list itself and to the other things. But since you're a little thin on your CP, starting out at 6 instead of 7, you might be keeping that. The reason why I say that is you're going to be running behind your Blade Guard veterans with that, and you're really only going to be healing the 1, and you can only revive the 1. So if you're starting at like 7 or 8, I would recommend dropping the Chief Apothecary because you can pay for the selfless healing on it. But yeah, it's really up to you on this point. If you think you don't need the CP or you don't use them, you can drop that Chief Apothecary, and you can use those points to upgrade your Vanguard veterans a little bit more. So your Salt Intercessors are a pretty decent close combat option, especially with the fight twice there. And make sure that you don't throw them away at units that they can't kill. That's going to be pretty critical because that is going to be your main unit for objective secured. They need to live. You don't have a ton of infantry in general in the list, so they're going to be targeted, especially with Hellbrecht coming right behind them. And 10-man is not that hard to kill Marines, so it's going to be something you want to just be thinking about because if that guy, then Hellbrecht is going to be right out in the open. The rest of the list is pretty self-explanatory as far as that goes. You have some pretty good support pieces there as well as having some close combat options. But I would also say that you want to make sure that you change from the Flamer on your Redemptors to the Onslaught Gatling Cannon. It's a more well-rounded piece of equipment. So if you can do it easily on your Redemptors and it's not already glued together, snap it off if you can, replace it. yeah, I think you'll be much happier with the results on that. It's just a better overall weapon in general. All right. All right. And William Marsh, were you referring to list 1 or list 2? I kind of machine gunned a little bit there. I'm going to assume that you're talking about list 1 because the Sword of Judgment's on there. So the skull is a great option. I like the skull. I take it in my list. I prefer to take it on my Vanguard veterans myself because of the larger squad size, as well as the speed to be able to get across the board quicker and get that range on those that debuff for the leadership. Yeah, that's my preference on it. I take the skull in every list now. So with the meta kind of being what it is, and they're more prevalent Zerker armies, whether it be the Grey Knights, the Nids now with the Crusher Stampede lists, we're going to have 1,000 Suns coming up. Eldar are going to be really huge really soon. The Custodes, not really going to be a thing with them. As far as I know, they don't have Zerker powers that I've seen. They didn't before. And then also, we're not going to have anything very much from Gene Stealers. They have some, but not really super relevant. But a lot of big armies, Tau don't, as far as I'm aware, but some pretty big armies that are using the Zerkers. I just take it. 15 points, it's worth it, even if we don't have something that's we're fighting something. The armies that we do fight against, it's kind of huge. I mean, it's game-changing, honestly. I mean, I don't know if you guys have had that same experience, but in my games, it's been really, really, really worthwhile. Even, I mean, I can take the 15-point hit in games where it's not relevant. But right now, there's not really many games where that's not relevant, so it's kind of a thing. Yeah. I agree. That's going to be kind of awkward there. From the notes that I received on this one. So you do have a Terminator Chapel. So my question is, are you going to deep strike them? If you're going to deep strike them, don't take the Master of Sanctity on them, simply because you're not going to be able to use both of them when you drop in. If you want to use that auto pass stratagem to cast. In addition, you're not going to want to double up on your Psalm. You have that on the Primaris one as well. So you want to make sure that you are changing one or the other to fires on one or the other. If the Terminator Chappie is going to be walking with the Terminators, then that's fine. You can keep the MOS on there. But if that's the case, if you intend to have them walking, I would suggest taking one of the best units in the Codex in the Biker Chaplain. If you don't have one, then I can understand that. And, the Terminator Chaplain is pretty cool. But, I mean, it's Terminator Chaplain. And then you can give it T-Bones, so make it pretty much impossible to kill. So it can still use the different buffs across the board, but it's going to be more well-rounded. The reason why I don't suggest deep striking on different things is your opponent can plan for it. It can screen out your deep strike, so you can deep strike in an area where it's really not fun to go, middle of the board, because it's not that terribly difficult to screen out an entire deployment zone. So you want to make sure that he is going to be coming down where you want him, or you have some control over where he's going to go. And deep striking, unfortunately, right now kind of allows your opponent to dictate it a little bit too much. So I don't like doing that unless you're doing drop pods and you got that first turn charge or that first turn drop to be able to dictate a little bit instead of waiting until the second turn where you really have some problems getting them on the board. Second comment I would have is to even out your power fists between your Primaris Crusader squads. It looks like one of them has 2 power fists on them and the other one has none. I'm all about redundancy. So I would say if you only have the points to do 2 total, I would put 1 in each to kind of give it a little bit more of a boon on each squad, but not so much that you're going to be hurting one way or the other if that one power fist unit gets targeted down and you lose all of your power fists on that. You also asked some of the options that you could have on the relic bearers. So right now your list comes in at, I believe, 1987. So you're going to be a little bit short on the 15-point relic bearers, which are going to be kind of the important ones. What you could do is you could drop the chief apothecary, or you could reduce it to a normal apothecary to get yourself 5 more points. And then you can take what I would recommend, Icon of Heinemann on the Blade Guard veterans. You could also do the Crux as well, but I prefer Heinemann to basically ignore any shots. The AP -1 and 2 shots on those very durable units, as opposed to allowing your opponent to do damage to you and taking the -1. So it's great on something like your Terminators that can take that hit all the time a little bit more, and your Redemptors, that's that type of thing where that -1 damage comes into play, where you're going to be seeing the high damage shots. Blade Guard veterans are kind of in the middle. So more times than not, you're going to be seeing a lot of AP 1 and 2 hitting them. And you want to just ignore that and be able to take your full armor save as much as possible on it, rather than just waiting until you take the damage to be able to get the benefit, in my opinion. That's why I think Icon is probably the better of the two, but slightly. If you drop both the Chief Apothecary and you drop your normal Apothecary, you'll gain yourself 40 points, and you can also add another Blade Guard veteran to that squad as well to increase the damage potential that they have. And then the little bit of the elephant in the room in the list is going to be your heavy intercessors. So I understand why you took them in the list. They're durable. They have some long-range guns that do a decent amount of damage. Just note that they are pretty points inefficient. So that's just something to think about. You could add a lot more to your list by switching them out to something else like assault intercessors or maybe infiltrators, something to that effect. But I will say that they are pretty durable, so they can sit on your home objectives as necessary and basically be hard to take out while your opponent's trying to get to your objectives. Yeah, and like I said, on the deep striking, opponent to opponent, you just have to be very mindful of where they are going to go, and hopefully that you can apply a pressure to a specific part of their battle lines so that they don't have the opportunity to screen you out from another area. I think the Chaplain with the Jump Pack is something that is viable to the lists that you can take out there. They're great for escorting Vanguard veterans. I don't think they're good choices to be for the T-Bones, just because it's on a weaker body. It's not going to be as tough, not as many wounds on it. But if you're looking at like a secondary chaplain, they're good. They're going to be great Vanguard veteran escorts. That's primarily what I would use them for, is to get those VV into position and apply a buff as necessary. But I still think the Biker is going to be kind of the way to go in the supplement. It's just too good, unless we're going to see a drastic points increase on it. I mean, a T-boned Biker Chaplain is just impossible to kill without a ton of firepower. And that's exactly what we're kind of looking for. soak up a ton of firepower, tie up something of your opponents that they don't want tied up, and kind of laugh as the rest of your opponent or your list advances to the middle of the board and consolidates on those 3, maybe 4 objectives so that you can score points. So Black Templar is going to be really board control now. So you want to make sure that you're getting to the middle of the board, taking your at least the middle with oaths. And if you're not running in a middle objective mission, obviously you're going to have to adapt a little bit to that. But Stranglehold is going to be great for what we do. We consolidate our objectives and, hope. Well, we don't even really need to even hope, but we have the buffs to stick around on those things. Make sure that you're not advancing too far. Use your fast things to counter assault as necessary. Don't be super aggressive with them. We could with the digital supplements that we had, because that's not who we are anymore. So get to the middle of the board, consolidate our forces, dare them to come to us. And really, that's kind of how we've been winning in a lot of the tournaments going out there. They just do it in different ways depending on the list. All right, so list 4. So this one has some notes on it. And again, I did not plan ahead for this, so all the way. So this one I'm going to have to kind of go through and read as it